Hi there, I'm Andy Robertson, and this is Family Gamer TV. Welcome back to Family Gamer TV. I'm with Tobi and his family, and we're going to be talking to him about playing games on the iPhone and iPad. So now I know when we went to San Francisco, you got quite into real racing.
Yeah.
And that was the first game you played on your iPad.
Yes.
Well, how did you find it?
Almost the first game.
Yeah.
Real racing. It was a lot of fun actually. I quite enjoyed the challenge, but it seemed to be able to progress quite quickly. So it was very easy just to pick up and play.
Mm-hmm. So you could steer, and we've talked about this before on the show. It's basically a game where you just hold your iPad or iPhone, iPod Touch, and you're steering like this. And when you start, it does the braking for you, and there's that auto brake sort of thing.
And I think it was probably after a few hours, I was able to turn off the auto brake in a little bit and turn off the auto steer a little bit, and actually start using the accelerator and the brake functions with it. And, but it was good fun. Just seemed to make progress really quickly, and a bit like Forza, but 2 or 3 laps. Easy progress, and feel that I was making having some success.
Yeah, and I remember watching you play and seeing how you spent quite a lot of time in the garage looking at your cars and working out, what because you can go in and customize your car to give it a bigger exhaust, bigger engine, and that affects the performance.
I think I was more concerned about the colour, to be honest.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you've got to get the right colour. Yeah.
The other game that we've played on the iPad is a game that we've made up using Google Earth.
So, Google Earth? Yeah. How does that work?
So we play Google Earth, which is kind of load up Google Earth and then decide where we're going to go and see how close to the ground we can get. So we kind of trek around the world to places like South Africa and across to the Himalayas, and then back to try and find our house and see what car was in the street when the photo was taken. And that was a very kind of quick. Let's just play for 3 minutes before going upstairs for
nice. And so do you take turns at doing that? Is there like a score? Can somebody win?
No, there was no score. We could get sophisticated, but there was no score. It was simply like we just take it in turns. Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go? Where do you want to go?
Yeah, nice one. I'm going to try that out with my kids, I think.
So what have you been playing on the iPad?
Well, there's this game called Bang. I imagine you've not heard of it. It's based on a card game. Now, it's one of these parlour games whereby each person gets dealt a card and they have to play a role. So it's the sort of thing you might play quite late at night if you have the cards with a bunch of friends.
Okay, have you taken your cards? Right, okay. I'm also going to Cat Baloo, and you need to lose your Mustang. I'm going to have a beer.
What's she got?
And I am going to have my barrel down there, and you'll go.
I know who I've got to get rid of. At least 2 people anyway.
The whole game is trying to work out, okay, who's the cowboy, who's the sheriff, who are the bank robbers and that sort of thing. And what this game does is take that card game and recreate it on the iPad or the iPhone, and actually there's a web version as well as one on little netbooks and Atom netbooks. Now, I played this a while ago and I read a little bit about it, but the interesting thing is that you can play, if you've got an iPhone, you can play against somebody who's got the game who's on an iPad. Okay. Which is, that's quite nice.
So is that on the same same Wi-Fi network?
No, it's over the internet, so you can play anywhere in the world. But not only that, you can also play against someone who's playing on a browser. Right. And you can also play on this Atom netbook version as well. Yeah. So it's something I've tried out, and it works very well. So the technology's there, and it's just so nice to feel like suddenly there's this barrier of, have you got an iPhone or iPad? This sort of elitism slightly of, where you can or you can't play. Suddenly it's gone, because it's like, I had a few friends. I was like, well, go to the browser, log in. You had to sign up and download the game, pay a little bit. But once you've done that, you can play against anyone. So
that's clever.
Yeah, so I really like that use of technology, and it's a game I'm probably going to get you playing at some point as well.
So how does it translate from playing where you might play a real card game where you can see body language, gestures, and you can kind of interpret raises of eyebrows and so on to playing in an online environment?
Were you the deputy?
It was Renegade deputy, wasn't it?
I was the deputy.
Right. Andy gets any cards you've got left?
Yes, thank you. So somebody, I think the name of the Renegade is...
You're really in...
I know 2 people I know.
In a lot of bother now.
I know. Well, no, I've got a Mustang. I've got. Well, I'm not saying that.
Well, you don't have that information to go on. So that is a difference, and that's something. There's nothing I think for me that replaces playing Bang or games like it in a group of friends, particularly if it's an after dinner sort of thing. 'Cause it's just so much fun. By looking at the sort of plays that the other people make, that is what you base your decisions on, of who's the sheriff and who's the deputy and all those sorts of things. So I think Bang's a game that does suit this sort of translation quite well. Whereas for me, I played poker, and that is a lot about reading the person rather than reading the cards. And I've never found a poker game that just translates so well. But for Bang, I think it does work.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see how it does work.
Yeah, cool. Well, like I say, we'll set you up, and I'll play at my house, and we'll play with you, and perhaps we'll get some other people involved around the world as well. So, yeah, we'll check back and see how it works. Now, moving on to some iPad, iPhone games you might not have played yet. There's a couple of recommendations for you. The first of which is Plants vs Zombies. Have you heard of that?
Plants vs Zombies.
Yeah, okay. That's right. No. Well, it's like, this might not have heard of this either. Have you heard of tower defense games? No. So there's a genre of games whereby you have an on-creeping mass of aliens or something, and you have to lay out your defences to try and stop them overwhelming you. Now, Plants vs Zombies is a quite long-standing game that's out on a variety of formats, but the enemies are zombies, and you play the plants, where you have to try and stop them. Make sense?
Yeah, I think so.
So what you have to do is essentially make sure you've got enough sunlight. So you're collecting sunlight, that's your resource. And as you collect that, you can lay out more plants on your lawn. And the plants are things like sort of pea plants and stuff like that, which will spit frozen peas or whatever at the zombies. And eventually...
Okay, so just like real life.
Yeah, just like we see outside every day. But there's something about the way it's presented. Now, it could be relatively gruesome, but it's all very cartoony. And it's really well balanced. So you have to spend a lot of time working out which plants are going to work best. And as the waves of zombies change...
Quite tactical in that way.
Exactly, and really tactical. So you have to actually come up with strategies. And for me and my family, often over breakfast, the kids are like, oh, what tactics do you use to overcome this particular wave, Dad? And I'm like, oh, well, you need loads of sunflowers, so you make sure you've got loads of sunlight, because they generate sunlight. And it's always up there in the sort of the top rating games. So maybe that's something you could try out.
I shall take a look.
You can check it out first. Then if you think it's suitable, you could maybe try the kids on it. Now, the other game I want to talk about is Fruit Ninja. Now, that's maybe one you've heard of, slightly more well known.
Yeah. I think I've seen some of that on earlier episodes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so we talked to Tim about it because a little while ago there was a Connect version where rather than using your finger to, in a game you slice fruit, that's the ninja, that's the fruit bit. On the Connect game, you're using your hands and your feet to do that. And it's actually part of playing that Connect game. I was like, actually, this is really good. And I went back and I bought it on the iPad. And I quite like the physicality of actually swiping. And I found, again, maybe for very young players, my son who's 4, he's about to turn 4, he got on much better with that than with the Connect game because he could just swipe through. And, it's something that potentially Matthias might enjoy as well.
That sounds quite good. I think some equality around what we can do with playing on an Xbox versus playing on other things. So finding the right device for the whole family or across the family.
Yeah, and often that device isn't the same for all players. And you can see that with, say, Mario Kart. With the Wii version, you just steer by tilting the Wii remote, so that's quite good for very young players. But as you get older, then you've got Mario Kart on the DS, which you're using the D-pad, the crosshair bit there, and then you've got Mario Kart 3DS, this Mario Kart 7 that we talked about. Again, that might be better for slightly older players. And again, it goes back to Bang, really. By having games that are available on different formats, particularly like Bang, if you can link it up on different formats, play against each other, then it lets you as a family decide, well, how do we want to play this? And for individual members, what's going to suit us best? Cool. Well,
sounds good.
Yeah, I'll get you working on those, and we'll get Matthias on it as well. He comes and joins us again. Cool.